Hi, my name is David, and I own Shale Creek along with my wife Barbara. And what I wanted to do in this video is discuss a little bit about high density. Now, a lot of you, just like me, we grew up knowing large apple trees, and those apple trees can be somewhere 25 feet tall and 20-30 feet wide. And that's kind of the traditional way of doing things. Beyond that, the trees got shorter, went into semi-dwarfs, made it a lot easier for people to pick and harvest, and the density of trees kind of got a little tighter on the properties, on the farms. And then there were some diseases that caused issues. More rootstocks were developed, and that drew us towards dwarfing rootstock, which kept the trees short, somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 to 12 feet, which is great. If you think about it, 10 to 12 feet, most of you can reach that. I'm about 5'10", 5'11". I can get at least 80% of that tree from the ground. That makes it outstanding for dwarfing rootstock. So there are some things that are a problem with dwarfing rootstock. The disadvantage here with dwarfs is that they are unable to support the tree when they're bearing a lot of fruit. They need a trellis. A lot of these grafts are also, the graft is where the rootstock meets the type of tree above it. That little line down there is sometimes very brittle depending on the rootstock that you've picked. So I wanted to get into a little bit about the trellis and some of the important aspects. And this is the beginning of kind of a series. This is February 2025, and over the next few years I'll be adding on to this. We have not yet planted our trees. They're going to be arriving in a few months, and that'll be the next part of this. So let me go ahead and start this video and explain some of the parts of the trellis. Now, as you can see down this line here, I've got a bunch of flags, and these flags are the future placement of the trees I'm going to be putting into this line here. The spacing for most trees, it depends on where you are. If you're far up north, northern climates, New York and stuff, they recommend really 3-foot spacing. And since the tree is going to be, let's say 11 feet tall, let's just say 12 feet tall, you want the aisle widths to be 90% of the maximum height that your tree is going to be. And that's really for looking at the sun, for making sure the tree has got enough sun. You also want to run the position of the posts and the trellis north-south, not east-west. Now, some of you might be limited for your topography. You've got hills, there's different things. You're going to have to kind of deal with that. But for any location, for any type of growing, if you can run north-south, that is the most ideal. And the reason is in the morning, it's basically giving you sun on one side, and then in the evening, the other side of the tree is getting sun. So that allows for even coloration of your fruit and good fruit development, and really it's going to give you the biggest bang for your buck overall. So for most trees, again, northern climates about 3 feet. For southern climates, and maybe some of the northern climates, if you've got a very vigorous growing type of tree, such as Gala, and I think Fuji is in that line as well. I believe Cortland or Macintosh is in that line as well. They're a very fast growing tree. You might want to go 4 feet, but don't go beyond that. I know this seems really tight, and when I get more into some of the pruning methods, you're going to see why you don't want to go that far. Because we're training these trees a little bit differently. We are not going where we're having the angles looking like this on the trees or even this. We're going to start bending the leaves down, the branches down at more of an incline like this, and at best they'll be up like this. The reason is it slows the growth, and it also narrows it in. So if we slow the growth and it's not tipping out, then we've got that 3-foot gap between the trees, and that allows us for the highest density. This particular density or this type of growing will give you a density of anywhere between 1,000 to 1,200 trees per acre. So I've got a 100 by 100 plot here, and we're going to put in something close to about 200 trees in just this one little 100 by 100 plot. That's less than 1/4 of an acre. And this 1/4 acre, when fully developed, is going to deliver somewhere around 8,000 pounds of apples per year. That is a stunning and amazing amount of apples. So what you're seeing here in this row is you're seeing the flags. The wires are up, haven't quite got tension on them. The tension will come in spring when the trees get planted, and that'll give the posts again time to settle in. But this is where we're standing at the moment. before I get too far along in the trellis, let me kind of explain one other thing here, which is also another important aspect about dwarfing rootstock. Standard trees, standard fruit size trees, the largest ones that there are, take about 9 years before they start producing fruit for you. And imagine you as a farmer planting 1,000 trees, waiting for 9 years to develop, and all of a sudden a new variety comes along. And you're stuck with those trees for who knows how long. Semi-dwarf take about 6 years. Dwarfing will start, dwarf rootstock will produce apples 2 to 3 years, and then every year from there on they're pretty much mature and they're producing on a regular basis. So another key advantage to doing that. And it's a very important one, because if you're a farmer and you really want to get your payback quickly, you're going to need it with this system, because like I said, this isn't a cheap system to set up. It's pretty expensive to do. Let's talk about the posts. Posts are going to need to be at about the height of the tree. So we bought 14-foot posts here. They're sunk in the ground, about 3 to 4 feet. 4 feet's ideal. An auger on a tractor won't always get you there. So they're sunk in the ground, let's just say somewhere between 3 and 4 feet. The rest is sitting above. You're going to have wires that are going to be attached to this at first starting off at about the 3-foot mark, and then every 2 feet beyond that. You can even go 1.5 feet if you want to put 5 wires typically, or what we're doing here is we're doing 4 wire, but 5 wire would be more ideal. These posts have to be pressure treated. The better way to get this in the ground, I mentioned that we put it in using an auger, which means that we had to dig a hole with the tractor, put the posts in there, level it, and then pound the dirt back in the ground. And really we're letting this sit all winter long and letting just the additional rain and things recompress that dirt. Without doing that, you run the risk of this getting really wobbly, because it's going to be holding a lot of weight. That weight's going to be put on by the wires here. You know, you're just going to risk it bending, or if you get a strong wind. Some people are like in the Carolinas have hurricanes, and you have to have this thing nice and sturdy. If you go 4x4, it's going to snap on you. I would say the minimum you want is a 5-inch diameter post if you're doing a round post. This is a 6x6. If you're buying these in bulk, treated, that's probably a better deal from if you can find a lumber mill that does that for you. You can also find steel posts. Steel posts are a bit more ideal, but you're also talking a much higher cost. Plus, you're going to have to somehow attach it, and there are ways to do that as well. So to start off with, you can see this is in the ground. We've got wires starting off at 3 feet, and then every 2 feet to the top of the post. Again, these are 14-foot posts sunk in the ground about 3 to 4 feet. You'll see here that there is a double staple system on here just to secure this. That double staple is in case one works out. You'll want to put these staples in at a slight angle to the grain of the wood. And the reason you do that, because if it's sitting straight with the grain of the wood, eventually what's going to happen a couple years from now is that wood grain is going to split and it's going to move side to side, and then that staple is going to come out and you're going to lose all of your loading capacity when these trees are nice and full. That could mean you lose some trees, literally snapping off at the base like I was discussing. The next thing for these wires, this wire itself needs to be at minimum 10 gauge wire. So the lower the gauge, the thicker the wire. So a 10 gauge is a pretty strong, high tensile wire. You're not looking for the type of wire that some people use for cattle fencing that kind of stretch a little more. This puts a lot of tension on it. At the moment, these are kind of loose. I use a wire strainer. There are different ways to do this. You could use a come along and tighten it, and you could use grapples to hold it together. I choose to use this because we do have cattle, and these are fairly cheap. They run anywhere from $3 to $6 depending on your source for each one of these. You basically run the wire in there. You can put a 1/2-inch ratchet on here, you can use a crescent wrench, or there's a special tool that allows you to crank this and put on pressure. So it's fairly convenient for putting on tension for your trees. Another important aspect of your building your trellis is your anchors, your end anchors. There's a couple ways to do this as well. This particular post is 7. If my dog doesn't get in the way, one of them. This is literally a 7-foot post. It's half of the post that was planted for the orchard, and it was put in by an auger and and planted in. And You could use just the same type of post that you're using to for your actual supports, or you could sink concrete and in that put a piece of rebar with a hook on it so that you can attach your lines to it as an additional way to do it. They also make, and they run anywhere from like $20 to $40 for a ground anchor, or they call it an earth anchor, which kind of looks like an auger with a really long pole and a hook on the end. And then you can attach to that. Basically, you ratchet that into the ground, and that would help you out here. As for trees, if you're purchasing over 100 trees, and this is, I wasn't talking about doing this for a small system. I'm really looking for you guys who are doing, you're kind of small like me, but you're not necessarily backyard. You're going to be looking probably for about 100 trees or more, hopefully. And at around that range, you're going to get a pretty healthy discount from these guys as a commercial grower. You're going to be able to go in and purchase trees anywhere from $10 to $15 each, which is really, really nice when you're purchasing that many. So you can do the math yourself. You are looking for feathered trees. Feathered means that it's got branches. You want some branching on these trees. You don't want just a straight stick. You don't want a twig that's only sitting at 12 inches tall. You want something that's going to give you a couple feet, at least a couple feet. Now here's 3 feet right about here. You're going to want something that's at least that. Typically they're running be somewhere between a caliper, which is the diameter of anywhere from a 1/2 inch to 7/8 inch, highly feathered, and pay the extra money for the feathering. They're going to be sorting through all of their stock, and you're getting the cream of the crop, and it's worth it to pay that extra fee. Some of them also are going to carry royalties with it. Somebody's developed that tree, and it's taken a while to get that out in the market, and you're early in on the market, so chances are you're going to be paying a royalty. Pay the royalty. It's what somebody is wanting currently. I don't know if Honeycrisp has a royalty still, but there are others that are brand new. Cosmic Crisp, it will eventually come around. That I'm sure is going to have a heavy royalty, and I think that's still out there for a few years. I'm going to be planting on this one Crimson Crisp, and I think I've paid about $1.50 extra per tree just to be able to grow that variety. So again, look for heavily feathered trees. So they're when you get them, they'll be 2 years old. They'll be bare root, shipped to you. There's a couple different companies that are out there. Trico is one. Adams County Nursery is another one, I think, in Pennsylvania. But there's a few trees. Look around. Don't be buying trees at $40 a tree. That makes absolutely no sense. And you can get these mail order, work with them. You're going to be purchasing them sometime in July to August, and that's for the next spring. You may even look a full year or two in advance. Sometimes that's what's going to be required to get the proper rootstock that you're looking for. You do want a heavily dwarfing rootstock, as dwarfing as you can get probably, and depending on your zone. In the south, you're definitely looking for a heavily dwarfing rootstock, so that you can keep those trees small, because in the south we've got a longer growing season, and that longer growing season means that those trees are going to be a lot bigger, a lot faster. So you're not going to be looking for something that's going to give you up to 50% dwarfing. You're going to want something that's going to give you up to 35 to 40% maximum growth compared to a standard tree. So one of the last things I want to talk about here is some of the costs and what to do with your end post here. If you were kind of listening, you see the anchor at the end here, and here's my post. The anchor, as far as how far it's set back from your last post, is going to be about half of the height of the post that you got in the ground. So for a 12-foot post, you figure half is 6. It's about 6 foot distance for it to start coming out of the ground. Well, you would think normally, hey, you might be losing this area for a tree. That's quite a bit of space. I've got 6 feet on this side, and on the other side of the trellis, I've got another 6 feet. So I've got 12 feet of lost space. So and potentially in 12 feet in the middle here is going to give me at least 3 trees to put in. Well, I can recoup at least 2 of those. How I do that is by sinking an electrical conduit. This is 3/4 inch. You can get 1 inch if it's cost effective for you. Sink it about halfway in between, or at least from the post to this, give it another 2 to 3 feet. And stick this post in the ground. I would anchor this to the wires using a bicycle tire inner tube. something a little bit flexible and go ahead and attach that to the wires. The reason to do that is to recover the space, of course, but the wires are starting to slope all the way back and they're really not going to give you that full height, but you can attach your tree to this. So it'll give you, they won't be the most perfect trees in the world, but it will definitely help you as far as training that tree when you're getting to that point. Cost of these, I spoke about that it's a disadvantage earlier in the video. Per row, just for really the watering and irrigation, forget the trees, just everything X the trees. I'm looking somewhere between $500 to $600 per 100 feet. And that can be quite a bit if you start adding it up, right? So I'm going to have 6 rows in this 100 by 100, roughly 6 rows in this 100 by 100, and that's probably going to run me around $6 grand. So if you're doing an acre, you're looking somewhere between 20 to 25,000 to do a full acre like this, and that's altogether possible. And people go, "Wow, that's a lot of money to put in. I'm never going to make that money back in my trees." But I want you to think of it a little differently. When I put in that many trees, I'm going to have almost 200 trees in this one little area here. I'm going to start developing in my second year. I might get 400 pounds. Second year, might get 400 pounds of fruit in the total area. That's not a whole lot. If you do the math per tree, that's really just a couple apples per tree. But the next year after that, so that's year 1 in the ground, I'm going to get a few apples. Year 2, I might get double that, maybe 1,000 pounds. By year 3, I'm almost at full production, so let's just say I'm getting another 6,000 pounds. By year 4, I'm already at 8,000 pounds. Now, if you're selling at about $1 a pound on a U-pick or more, you can do this math really quickly. So between year 3 and 4, when you add up all those number of apples, the number of pounds that you're developing through your orchard, that pays your system back very, very quickly. Now, judge that against running a large tree, a standard size tree that's 20, 25 feet tall. You know, you're having a hike up and down. That's the disadvantage. You're losing a lot of time and labor just on ladders trying to get into this tree. The light really isn't penetrating that tree. But on these, you've got a very shallow depth. I can reach through that tree to the other side if I really wanted to. So they're getting very even amounts of light. The fruit is much more perfect. They're easy to get to. Your yield, your quality of your yield is very good. And this is the reason that we've decided to go through this. We're here in East Tennessee. It's very difficult to grow fruit here. And when I first got here, I was told you cannot grow fruit here, which is complete nonsense. Don't listen to those people. Do your thing, but do your research and find out what you can grow. Look for good quality types of apples that people enjoy. Honeycrisp is a slow grower, but it develops, people love them here. I have no problem selling fruit here, especially U-pick when people come in, and the difference in flavor between here and the grocery store is quite immense. A Honeycrisp that you grow in the store is maybe 1/10 the quality of when you pick it fresh off the tree. That's just, that is not an exaggeration. I've got some Macintosh here where I've purchased them in the store, and I really don't care for Macintosh in the store, but I have one here, and that flavor is so intense, so incredible. So yes, it's expensive to set up, and we're not going to be able to set up this, I can't afford to set up these 6 trellises all at one time, but I am going to be installing 3 this year and probably the other 3 next year. And so this property will develop, and you're going to kind of see that as you get the pictures coming along here in the years to follow. So once again, my name is David, and this is Shale Creek, and I hope that you found this video instrumental in helping you set up a trellis that maybe some of the other videos aren't really showing you about high density. If there is something that you're missing or you've got a question, go ahead and drop it in the comments below. Let me know, and I'll either include it on the next video or I'll try to answer you right off. This is my way of kind of putting a chronology together for our farm, and a way for me to look back and say, you know, hey, yeah, that's what it took, and I really screwed up there, which maybe some of you have found that in your own videos. So I've enjoyed making this and putting it together, and again, I really appreciate it. Please follow. It'll help me out a little bit, and it lets me know that somebody's interested, and really that's the main point of this. So take care of yourselves. Good luck growing. In for the road.